It should have been a knockdown, one. So that's why I'm yelling at the referee, like, keep counting. Like, you tripping, keep counting. That's a knockdown. Because if y'all didn't notice, he started the count.
The boxing world is in shock after a wild revelation from Tank's own camp. His trainer has reportedly spilled the truth behind what really happened in the controversial fight against Lamont Roach Jr., and the details are shocking. Fans suspected foul play, but this goes beyond just bad judging. This was a carefully planned setup to keep Tank's record safe.
Some stuff that he think I don't know about. He think he got one up on me. I don't know. He think he got a mole somewhere. I told him I got a mole too. How about that?
The fight ended in a draw, but people watching knew something was off. The biggest moment of the night came in the 9th round when Tank unexpectedly took a knee after Roach landed a jab. And up to now, fans know that this should have been a knockdown, clear as day, but the referee refused to count it. Now Tank's trainer has allegedly admitted behind closed doors that the ref was never going to call it because the fight was already rigged to go a certain way. The plan was simple. If Tank couldn't dominate, the worst case scenario would still be a draw. The judges were in on it. The ref was in on it. And most importantly, Tank knew he was being protected.
Down into not, so a lot of people said that if Lamont Roach would have got that call, he would have won the fight. But like I said again, Tank Davis is usually known for knocking out his opponents, being very timely, letting them win the...
The excuse Tank gave for the knee was weak. He claimed grease from his hair burned his eyes. But his own hairstylist later shut that down, saying no grease was used. The trainer, however, has reportedly admitted that the knee wasn't because of grease or exhaustion, it was because Tank felt Roach's power and needed some time to reset. He knew he was getting outboxed, and the ref helped him escape a real knockdown call. If that round had gone to Roach with a 10-8 score, the entire fight could have swung in his favor.
So, yeah, Lamont, he didn't do enough early, and then when it got midway through the fight, he kind of established himself, and then he didn't dominate, but he asserted himself the latter of the fight to where it's in my opinion, I said literally at the end of the 11, I said, if there's no knockout, this looks like a draw.
What's even crazier is what happened after the fight. According to sources close to the camp, there was a meeting before the judges' scores were even announced. Tank's trainer was allegedly told that the draw was coming, and the message was clear. We couldn't give him the win, but we weren't letting him lose. This suggests that no matter what happened in the ring, Tank was never going to walk away with an official loss. Roach's team is furious, and they have every right to be. One insider claims Roach was warned before the fight that he would need to win every single round clearly to even get a fair decision. And now, with Tank's own camp admitting what went down, it's clear that Roach never even had a real chance. This wasn't just bad judging. This was a rigged setup from the start.
If the question is about Gervonta Davis's power, what is his power like? Is he as hard a puncher as he's made out to be? If the best name that somebody could give me, if somebody that he knocked out is a little dude who was at his...
Adding even more fuel to the fire, rumors are now circulating that Tank's team was negotiating a rematch before the fight even happened. That means they may have known beforehand that the fight would be close enough to justify running it back. Some boxing insiders are saying that this was all part of a bigger business strategy to build controversy, protect Tank's record, and make more money off a rematch.
Was he outboxing me? Was he using the ring to set me up with certain shots or anything like that? No.
And if that wasn't enough, another shocking detail has come to light. There were whispers before the fight that Roach would never get a knockout even if he landed the perfect punch. Some sources claim that if Roach had hurt Tank badly, the referee was prepared to step in early and wave it off as a slip or a clinch instead of a real knockdown. If that's true, then this whole fight was just an illusion, an event carefully controlled to make sure the biggest name in boxing didn't take a loss.
I was gonna have to do that shit over. I think it was a scheme so they could have a rematch anyway. Yeah, what I mean, that was the whole thing, so they could do the rematch anyway, because you can't be like, you got beat.
Terrence Crawford tweeted, "They robbed that boy. Must have forgot the rules for tonight." Ryan Garcia added, "Not calling that knockdown is the wildest thing I've seen." Davis blamed grease from his hair getting in his eyes, but fans weren't buying it. Roach believes he won, saying, "I did enough to get the victory." Many demand an investigation into the decision, seeing it as another case of boxing protecting its stars. The demand for a rematch is growing, but this fight has once again exposed boxing's long-standing issues with corruption and favoritism. Will the sport take action?
We literally saw the mental breakdown of Tank. Like, again, if you got that elite level Y, you know what you saw. He was intimidated by Roach, and it was like baffling to see. Why was he moving? Because to me, he was intimidated by Roach. To me, Roach was walking him down. To me, Roach was doing more body work than him. To me, Roach was faster on the counter.
But even with all that on the table, Tank and Roach are on the verge of a rematch, and the boxing world is already talking again. Roach's promoter, Gary Jonas, has made it clear that the second fight is nearly finalized, and all signs point to an even more intense showdown. Jonas didn't reveal too many details, but he did suggest that Davis is going to approach the fight with a whole new mentality. He's no longer talking about retirement, no longer distracted, and according to Jonas, he's probably woken up. But if that's the case, the real question is, why wasn't he fully locked in the first time? And more importantly, if the rematch is happening, does Roach actually have a fair chance? Or is the setup already in place to keep Tank on top no matter what?
Hopefully the commission gets this right. It was a bummer not being declared the winner on a technicality that could be righted, that wrong could be righted. Obviously, in different ways, in different facets.
The first fight ended in a controversial draw, but many fans and experts believe Roach was robbed of a win. At first, referee Steve Willis looked like he was about to call it what it was, a knockdown. He even started counting. But then Davis, mid-fight, pleaded with the ref, and just like that, the count stopped. The fight continued as if nothing had happened. That moment alone could have completely changed the outcome. If Willis had stuck to his initial reaction and called it a knockdown, Roach would have won by unanimous decision. That's not speculation, it's just math. The WBA lightweight belt would have been his, and Davis would have walked away with the first loss of his career. But instead, the decision stood, and Roach had to take to social media to let fans know how frustrated he was.
Knockdown that wasn't in round number 9. Gervonta Davis takes a knee, landed a right hand, then 2 jabs afterward. What was on your mind?
Man, I was surprised, man. I ain't gonna lie. Like I thought it was a 10-8. Like that's what really was going on. Like I was confused when he looked at the ref, but when he took the knee, I was like, and I grasped the concept that he was on the ground. I was like, that's a 10-8.
The fallout from the fight didn't end that night. Roach's team immediately filed an appeal with the New York State Athletic Commission, arguing that the referee's mistake had directly changed the result. The commission even acknowledged that the knee should have been ruled a knockdown, which is a rare moment of honesty in boxing politics. But despite admitting the mistake, they still upheld the draw. Their reasoning? They claimed that because the fight continued for several more rounds, both fighters had already adjusted to the ref's decision, so it wouldn't be fair to change the result. It was a ridiculous explanation, but it wasn't surprising. Boxing has a long history of protecting its biggest stars, and Gervonta Davis is one of the most valuable names in the sport.
Learn a lesson, shout out to Lamont, Roach and his whole team, man. Hopefully we can run it back, for sure. Bring it back to New York, let's do it again, let's have a
Roach's reaction was heated, but controlled. He has made it clear that he wasn't the one who filed the appeal. His team did, because they knew it was the right thing to do. He wasn't banking on the decision being overturned, but he was still disappointed. And while he didn't seem shocked by the outcome, one thing was clear. He knew he won that fight. In his words, everyone knows I won the fight, and I'm satisfied with that. Part 2 OTW.
Roach, let me tell you something. Tank got spanked. Roach should have won. And Tank even dropped to his knee. It should have been called a knockdown. But they let it slide. They said, you know what? He said he had grease in his eye.
Now, with the rematch nearly official, there are serious questions about how it will be handled. The first fight already had fans suspecting foul play. And now that the NYSAC has openly admitted that the ref made a bad call, but refused to fix it, it's hard to trust that Roach will get a fair shake the second time around. The controversy didn't just come from the fight itself, but from what happened after. There were whispers that certain high-level figures in boxing had made sure the result was locked in before the opening bell. Roach was never going to win that night, no matter what he did in the ring.
And finally, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Gervonta Tank Davis situation. What was your assessment on his fight against Lamont Roach, and what are your thoughts on the knockdown that wasn't called in round 9?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good fight overall. Lamont, I always knew Lamont was, he wasn't coming to lay down.
But all this is not just about competition, it's about business. A heated rematch brings in more money and controversy sells. By keeping Davis' record clean while giving Roach just enough of an argument to demand a rematch, the promoters set up the perfect storm for another payday. But Roach isn't the only one questioning how fair this rematch will be. Fans who saw what happened in the first fight are skeptical. If the last fight was manipulated to protect Davis, why would the rematch be any different? Roach already had his moment to win, but the people in control didn't let it happen. What's stopping them from doing the same thing again?
He take a knee. You need to lose like 10-8 that round at least, no? And plus the corner go up and put it a towel in the face. That's a disqualification for sure. I'm talking about the rules, but it's not my business.
With all this swirling around the fight, Davis has stayed mostly quiet, but his trainer's alleged admission changes everything. If his own camp is admitting that the fight wasn't handled fairly, then the rematch carries even more weight. Roach will be going in with something to prove, but he'll also have to deal with the reality that he might not be able to win unless he knocks Davis out cold. And even then, given what we now know, can anyone be sure the ref would even count it? The rematch may be close to being finalized, but the real question isn't when it's happening. It's whether or not it will be another setup. Roach fought his heart out the first time and walked away empty-handed because of decisions that had nothing to do with what happened in the ring.
I'm still rooting with him. I saw all the negativity and people, critics talking, but I think he's one hell of a fighter, and I think he's still the top dog.
If the same forces are at play again, then no matter how good the rematch is, the result might already be written. Lamont Roach Jr. isn't wasting time dwelling on what could have been. The moment his fight with Gervonta Tank Davis ended in a controversial draw, he already knew what his next step would be. The rematch was written into the contract, and now, after feeling like he was robbed, Roach is making it his mission to ensure that the next fight leaves no doubts.
They reversed the result of your fight.
Yeah.
Should they reverse the result of that fight as well?
Just depends. Like if that changes the whole fight, if that gives Roach a victory, give him the victory. That's how you keep the integrity of the sport, right? That's why they suspended me.
His mindset has shifted. He's not just looking to win, he's looking to dominate. Roach knows that he has to be better, stronger, and more relentless if he wants to take Davis down and leave with the belt in his possession. There was a fire in his voice when he spoke about his strategy on ProBox TV with Gary Jonas. He wasn't talking about small adjustments. He was talking about transforming himself into a different type of fighter, one who wouldn't hesitate when the moment came, one who would press forward and take everything that belonged to him. That's the kind of mindset that turns a fighter into a champion. The first fight between Roach and Davis was supposed to be just another title defense for Tank. Davis, the biggest star in the lightweight division, wasn't expecting a real challenge. He didn't take Roach seriously. That was his first mistake. From the opening bell, Roach made it clear that he wasn't there to be a stepping stone. He took the fight to Davis, landed the sharper shots, and refused to be intimidated. As the rounds went on, Roach built momentum, and by the time the fight was over, many believed he had done enough to win. But boxing isn't just about what happens in the ring. Politics, money, and power always play a role. Davis, being the A side, got the benefit of the doubt from the judges. A draw allowed him to keep his belt, but it didn't erase the doubts, it didn't erase the criticism. And Roach left the ring knowing that he had shaken up the division.
He caught me with a good shot, but it was times that I sat in there with him and I'm like, damn, this guy like super slow. Well, not super slow, but he's slow. And I could have took advantage of. I think I was boxing too much in the beginning. And when I feel like
Now the rematch is the only fight that makes sense. But in the middle of all this, Shakur Stevenson is trying to insert himself into the conversation. Stevenson, who has one fight left on his Matchroom contract, is looking for a big name to close out his deal. He wants Davis, Roach, or William Zepeda. The problem is, none of those fights are realistic right now. Davis and Roach are locked in for their rematch, and Zepeda is tied up with Tevin Farmer. That leaves Stevenson stuck, watching from the sidelines, trying to make noise on social media. He threw Roach's name into the mix, saying that if Roach doesn't get the rematch with Davis, he'd be happy to fight him for a world title. Stevenson framed it as an opportunity, as a way for Roach to still get a big fight if the Davis rematch doesn't happen. But Stevenson knows the truth. Roach isn't walking away from this rematch. He wants Davis, and nothing else will satisfy him.
I'm not even going to shit on him, but look, I want some money tonight. That's all I'm happy for. I want money tonight.
Shakur, tell us something, bro. Like, what did you think about the decision?
I ain't going to shit on him.
Okay.
We still got to see each other. He say he want to fight me, so we going to fight.
But what do you think about the decision?
That's where Stevenson's real problem lies. He wants to be in these conversations, but he's not the priority. He's a great fighter, but he's not the star that Davis is. He doesn't bring in the same kind of money, the same kind of attention, and that frustrates him. He sees Davis and Roach setting up a huge rematch, and he knows that he's left without a marquee fight. Stevenson is used to being in control of his career, but right now, he's at the mercy of the business side of boxing. And that's a reality he's struggling to accept. He's looking at his options: Andy Cruz, Raymond Muratalla, Abdullah Mason, Edwin De Los Santos, Joe Cordina, but none of them excite him. None of them bring the kind of prestige he's chasing. He wants Davis, but Davis isn't thinking about him. Davis is thinking about Roach, and that's eating at Stevenson.
Shakur, like, is he still like on the list?
For sure. He's a great champion. He's a great champion. Why not display my skills against a great champion like I did tonight? 100%.
Davis, for his part, knows what's at stake. He's not just defending his belt, he's defending his reputation. The first fight against Roach raised questions. People saw him struggle. They saw Roach take rounds from him. They saw moments where Davis didn't look like the dominant force he usually is. And most of all, they saw the 9th round, the round that caused so much controversy. That was the moment that changed everything. Davis went down, the referee didn't call it a knockdown, and Roach's team immediately protested. The New York State Athletic Commission later admitted that a mistake was made, but nothing changed. The decision stood. And now, Davis has to prove that he can beat Roach without controversy. He has to prove that he doesn't need the judges, the referee, or any favors to keep his title.
Shakur.
Did you think it was a draw? No. I thought Lamont won.
Who you thought won?
Lamont.
You thought Lamont won? By how many rounds?
I don't know.
You still want the Tank Davis fight?
You said what?
You still want the Tank Davis fight? What?
Roach knows that the rematch will be different. He caught Davis off guard the first time. That won't happen again. This time, Davis will be fully prepared. This time, Davis will come in with something to prove. And that means Roach has to be even better than he was before. That's why he's talking about being more ruthless, more aggressive, more physical. He can't afford to let Davis get comfortable. He can't afford to let up when he has Davis hurt. If he gets the opportunity, he has to take it. He has to finish the fight. That's the only way to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself.
If Tank won't fight the rematch, what happens with him and Shakur? How do you see that fight
Stevenson has a reputation as being the best defender in the division. He is a feared fighter because of that particular quality. If I'm Tank Davis and I'm coming...
But there's a risk to that approach. Davis is still one of the hardest punchers in the sport. He's still dangerous. And if Roach becomes too aggressive, if he makes a mistake, Davis will capitalize. That's what makes this rematch so compelling. Both fighters have something to prove. Both fighters have adjustments to make. And both fighters know that this time, there can't be any doubts. This time, there has to be a clear winner.
But he's fighting Lamont Roach. He's clearly not, if he wants money, he'd be going a different direction.
Okay, because maybe he doesn't know what direction to go, because he looks at Lamont and Shakur as the same. That's what we're saying. Where are his super fights? Where are his money fights?
And while all of this is happening, Stevenson will still be watching from the outside, trying to figure out his next move. His contract with Matchroom is coming to an end, and there are rumors that he might be looking to sign with Turki Al Sheikh's new boxing league. That could be a disaster for him. Turki likes to put on unpredictable matchups, often making fighters jump weight classes or take on opponents who are naturally bigger. If Stevenson signs with him, there's a real possibility that he gets matched up against someone like Jaron Ennis, and that would be a nightmare. Stevenson is a great boxer, but he doesn't have the power to keep bigger, stronger fighters off of him.
Me and Shakur already talked to each other, and if he's available and we can line it up, that's what we're going to do.
Really? Y'all.
That's why he's been so careful with his matchmaking up to this point. But if he enters a league where he doesn't control his opponents, things could get ugly for him fast. Davis and Roach don't have to worry about that. They know what their next fight is. They know what's coming. The only thing left is to step into the ring and settle this once and for all. Stevenson, on the other hand, is in limbo. He wants to be in the biggest fights, but right now, the biggest fight in the lightweight division belongs to Davis and Roach. The first fight was a war. The second fight will be even bigger. And Stevenson, he'll just have to wait his turn. Well, what's your take? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to subscribe for more updates. See you in the next one.